Welcome to the Unfiltered Path podcast, where we explore life's journey without the constraints of filters. In a world saturated with highlight reels, we dive deep into the true essence of individual experiences, offering listeners an uncensored glimpse into the triumphs, struggles, and transformative moments that define us. Our mission is to provide hope, inspire resilience, and remind you that every path, no matter how windy or rocky, can lead to growth and enlightenment. Join us as we navigate the uncharted territories of truth, and to be moved, be inspired, and discover you're not alone on this unfiltered journey of life. Hello, everybody. My name is Graham, owner of Valued Productions. We provide video marketing strategies to businesses, and I want to welcome you all to the Unfiltered Path podcast. I'm joined with my awesome co-host this morning.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Trinity Baker. I am a mindset coach. I take individuals who are in survival mode and I bring them into thrival with the power of their mindsets. I am so blessed to be here today and here with my co-host.
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. I am an aerialist. I'm also an educator, so I teach other people to do it too. Being an aerialist is a fancy term for performing suspended in the air. Essentially, we're the bird of the circus. And we are here with our wonderful guest,
Harvey. I'm a real estate guide with Massachusets and Associates. Happy to be here and excited to see what this brings.
Yeah.
So I have a quick question before we get started too much into everything. Corey, you said you're a real estate guide. What is a real estate guide? Is that like versus a real estate agent? Like what's going on there with that?
So for the longest time, my personality is I'm very unique. So I'm not cookie cutter. I don't like, if you ever follow me on Facebook, Corey Harvey, Massachusets and Associates, I'm very, everything is customized. So what I wanted to do was, everybody calls themselves either a real estate advisor or a real estate agent. I wanted to be different. I feel like an agent is more or less a very short-term relationship, while a guide is somebody to guide you through the process. And it's a very long-term relationship. So even after the transaction's done, I'm still there to guide you through anything to do with real estate. I did want to call myself an advisor as well, because we don't really advise. I really kind of educate and guide people through the process and give them options so they can make educated decisions on their own. The only time I really offer my advice is if it's a good friend of mine, or if it's a first-time home buyer that really needs some advice, or somebody specifically goes, Corey, what do you advise me to do? Most of the time, people don't like to be advised. They just like to know they have options and the pros and cons of those options. And that's where I come in as a real estate guy.
That's sweet. Yeah, I like that. That makes a lot of sense. And like I always thought this kind of interesting. When you think of real estate agent, it almost sounds like it's the agent of the government, like, dun, 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 you know what I mean? And like, real estate guy definitely is it lowers that, like sales resistance and that like, friction that may come from, making the biggest investment of their life, essentially. I can relate with that. That sounds...
Buying a house is a hunt. It's the most accurate word I've ever heard for what you actually do. Like, you're literally like shopping for people on their largest purchase of their life in most cases, right? So it's just the most appropriate name I've ever heard. I think it's brilliant. I can't wait to follow you on media.
Yeah,
thank you.
And I think that you hit the nail on the head, Corey. And I think that's what sets us apart here. And a lot of the guests that we bring on here is that we are totally our unique selves. And that's what makes us great at what we do. And so I love that you took that approach when you were saying, how am I going to refer to myself in this position? Is how can I harness the power of who I am and as a unique brand? And I love that about you, because the more we step into our unique, truest selves and say, hey, I'm different, and that's okay, the more we can actually serve the people that are brought to us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
It's true. Like I'm a professional athlete technically, right? So that's like what I start picking as a title in certain, like even on Instagram, for example, right? But I lead with being an artist. In fact, I lead with motherhood. Even as an aerialist, like a lot of my videos show me training with my kids or my kids. So it's, I thought I had to stop when I got pregnant. I want to normalize that it doesn't stop. It in fact, it can just continue to grow. So I kind of like lost track of my thoughts there. I just got sidetracked by like, I lead with motherhood. What I mean is not that traditional athleticism. And
Yes.
yeah, it's smart.
Well, I think the biggest thing behind the whole real estate guide thing was I just wanted to be different. I mean, I feel like everybody's like, oh, I'm a realtor, oh, I'm a real estate agent, oh, I'm this. And like, I want to be that person who stands out, not because I want somebody to be like, oh, he's the best or something like that. Like, I want people to be like, what is a real estate guide? I want them to ask that question because really it's no different from anybody else. I just provide a different experience, a much lighter experience. Like, I'm not an agent, I'm not an advisor, because people get scared of those words. People get scared. I mean, FBI agents, they wear those black glasses with suits and like, I'm wearing Hawaiian shirts half the time and I'm your, real estate guide through this process. And I make it a lot more fun rather than like, hey, it's a super stressful process because you're purchasing real estate, but how can we make this fun and we make this a good experience for you?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that helps with like marketing and everything. I mean, just the way when I think of stuff like that, it's like, oh, that's the way to do marketing. There was a book that we had to read. Can't remember the name of it, but it was about the guys who did this baseball team or some sort of baseball called the Savannah Bananas, and they basically were a baseball team that was about to phase out, and they basically reinvented this game. It's like a take on baseball, but it was allowed them to be so unique and market themselves that it's its own thing. And so, yeah, and that's kind of reminds me of like what you're talking about. How do you think like that? Where does a lot of your inspiration come from with that?
I really think it's just the idea of, being unique. And I think thinking outside of the box. I think, in such a saturated market or even in general, I mean, my whole process, not just with real estate, but with my whole life, I just want to be unique. I don't like being cookie cutter or boring or so-called normal. Like, I like the, to think outside of the box. I like the different, like, I'm so crazy sometimes that I'll literally listen to quotes. They're while I'm working out, nice mindset, stoic quotes while I'm exercising. And it calms me down. I really understand the quotes, especially when I'm doing some sort of physical exercise. And I've been into personal development ever since I probably found it maybe 5-6 years ago. But I feel like I've always had it inside of me. It's just, I haven't had the people around me to be able to motivate me to become better.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's prioritizing programming your own mind. And that's what Trinity experts in. And it's making that the priority though. And I think that's what a lot of our guests and us do. That makes us so unique. I really think that's the tool to finding that space within yourself. My kids wake up to beautiful chorus on Pandora, which is essentially singing affirmations. They're a group that travels to yoga retreats, for example. That's how we wake up. That's a decision. It's conscious. It's to be unique. I think, right?
Yeah. And I think if you look at the patterns of our life, I'm not going to speak for myself, but I know, Danielle, you've hinted at this and we've briefly discussed this before, is back in our high school, middle school, grade school years, back when we used to look at people look at other kids and compare, we were so different, right? Like so different. And I always looked at that when I was younger as like a bad thing. I thank God every day that I found out that that's not a bad thing, and that we were made to be different for a reason, because it takes really unique people to do the things that we do. It takes unique people who are willing to step out of normal and say, hey, I'm me, and this is what I have to bring, and I'm going to step into it. Like, I'm going to own this crap.
Yep.
Exactly.
A little lonely at first. I think that's what's so terrifying.
Yeah.
Is there's all that kind of initial, even if I've kind of gone through many periods where I've had that. So that seems to be how it starts. Is
Yes.
very isolated experience.
At first, it's very, very lonely, but I don't know that the loneliness ever really goes away. I feel like it's just like different chapters of being lonely. I don't even know if lonely is the right word, but it is lonely, because unless you surround yourself with people who are like you, like us here on this podcast, which I hope that's something that this podcast gives people, is the people who are feeling lonely in like this way. I hope that we give that a voice to those people, saying like, hey, you may feel alone, but you're not alone. Like oftentimes I feel alone, but then I'll call Danielle or call another entrepreneurial friend, and they'll be like, no, like you are on the right track, because we are doing things that other people don't do.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true. I think also what's true is that some people are scared to show their true self. I mean, I know that for the longest time when I found Stoicism, I didn't even call myself a Stoic. I didn't even call myself anything. I was just so ashamed of like using something that was back in history, even though it was very positive, very beneficial. People thought I was crazy at first. They're like, what are you, like some sort of David Goggins impersonator? I'm like, no, I'm just trying to better myself. Like, I'm not trying to motivate anybody else. Like, I'm just trying to, set a good example and, be the best version of myself while using my virtues: courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice. That's kind of the whole thing, is like, those are the pillars of my life. And that's how I get through a lot of my heartaches, my, failures, even my successes. Sometimes successes take a lot of courage to proceed with. So it's like, it just kind of set me up with a very good foundation. And now everything that comes at me, I'm able to deal with it in a very peaceful and calm way, in a very efficient way as well.
Dig that. So just to bring it back a little bit, and I like have done a little bit of research on this, and like you said that you've gotten into Stoicism and whatnot. Just in case for the people listening, explain in your words, what is Stoicism? Because I've seen some things, and like, it's definitely not, like we talk about unique, it's definitely not one of those things that like you hear all the time, like that term even, you know what I mean? So like, explain a little bit more what that is.
I would say, honestly, it's got many definitions, obviously, because philosophy is all about perspective, and what you use pretty much to make your life better. But I use Stoicism specifically for creating a positive mindset. So I would say the definition that I use is a philosophy to create a positive mindset through theories. And a lot of these are theories, like dichotomy of control. That's the first thing you'll learn with Stoicism. It's basically telling you that like, you can't control any outside events, but you can control how you feel about those outside events.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's cool. Very cool.
I think it's like
go ahead.
I think it's like it's a different approach to learning about how powerful your mindset is. It's very unique. And Corey, I love that you love it. You sort of brought that back to me, because I had learned about Stoicism years ago, and then I learned about a million other different things. And so you kind of brought that back to me. And it really is like it's a deeper version of learning about your mindset and harnessing the power of it. Like what I teach is a lot of basics to get people on the route to discovering things like Stoicism. And then what I also teach is, if you already have this belief, to like how to maximize it to the next level, because there's always next levels for all of us. So if you are someone listening, like, I know the power of mindset, I'm a really great positive thinker, and I know it's all about perspective and what we focus on, we attract more of, and maybe you're into manifesting, check out Stoicism, because I think it just takes it to a different, deeper level.
Yep. I think you nailed it right on the head. I mean, the hardest thing when I found Stoicism was not only learning it, because it's not dry, it's just very complex. Like, the quotes themselves, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, all these guys were like ridiculously smart for their age and their time and stuff like that. So, I mean, very, very complex. If you ever get a chance, read Meditations, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Meditations is literally a book where Marcus Aurelius wrote a journal. It's all of his journal entries during the times of war, during the times of the plague. I mean, he lost multiple daughters and sons. So this guy has been through the ringer. And to top that all off, he was controlling an empire, the Roman Empire. And he was literally just like going through a lot of things, but he was still able to get through all of those things because of Stoicism. And there's also other philosophies and stuff that Stoicism kind of blends in with. But Stoicism was something I just kind of connected with. Like, when I listened to the quotes, it felt like I just was a Stoic back in the Roman Empire, or I feel like I had like some sort of connection to it. I just understood it like right away. Like, it wasn't something where I had to like learn it. Obviously, I'm learning every single day as a Stoic, but it's like I listened to the quotes and I was like, oh wow, like this sits with me and this is cool. And like, you know, all the different types of theories and stuff like that, it really just helps you create a positive mindset in such a crazy world we live in. You know, so that's the honest truth, is like, there's so many things out there that are waiting to bring down your mindset. But I just feel like I now have the abilities and the tools, thanks to Trinity, but also thanks to me knowing Stoicism, to be able to handle those things as they come in. I'm not avoiding anything. I'm not avoiding my emotions. I'm taking them in and controlling them.
Mm-hmm. Because you are totally right. Life will always happen. I did a reel on this earlier this week. I just recorded a masterclass for my clients tomorrow. Like, we must have a routine and habits in place to keep us in control of our mindset, or the next thing that happens will derail us. And then it's just a spiral. And that's what you see with people who are like completely miserable, depressed, anxious, like living in that survival mode, is because it's just one thing after another. And people always say to me, like, how are you happy? Does life not happen to you? And I'm like, you don't even know. But that's the thing, is like, life's always going to happen. If it's not this thing, it's that thing. If it's not that thing, it's this thing. So why base our happiness and joy and peace in all of these things on what happens? Why can't we be in control of that? And you can. The answer is you can. And oh my goodness, I can go on with this forever.
I love it personally. You know, one of the things I do use all the time is something called, it's a little bit more of an advanced technique, but it's called negative visualization. Not exactly a good thing for somebody who doesn't have a super, super positive mindset all the time, but it's something that really helps me. Negative visualization is thinking about the worst possible thing that could happen. And then creating strategies, the pros and cons of that thing that does happen, and not giving yourself anxiety, because if you go too deep into it, it gives you anxiety. But to the point where, like, for example, if I do something and something bad happens, if I have a bad interaction while I'm door knocking, the worst thing that can happen is the person's just not interested in my product. Like, that's it. And then I just move on to the next one. And every time I get a no, I get closer to that yes. So it's like taking something that is super negative and turning it into a positive by realizing that, like, oh, the worst thing that could happen is I could get hurt or something like that. But then you start to understand that, okay, maybe this is worth the risk kind of thing. Or I have a hard time talking to the females sometimes. So the biggest thing with me is rejection. What's the worst thing that can happen if I talk to, the cute girl at the gym? She doesn't like me, or she's not interested at the time. Move on, don't take it personal, and just it allows me to develop strategies to get over that type of thing or deal with that situation.
Can I still a little bit? So the negative, visualization you're talking about is actually preparing the nervous system. So what happens, a lot of anxiety, fear, and things that will make you stop something that you've even trained for. Say I've trained for a drop and I go to do it, which literally happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I just didn't do it. So when those moments happen, it's something to do with my nervous system. So by training your nervous system before something actually happens, it prepares you for excellence. It almost makes it so it doesn't happen, so that you do the objective. However, I will say that when your worst case scenario about knocking on doors as a woman, my mind went completely in a totally different direction, that I slightly laughed at they might say no. So we all have our own layers of nervous systems. But yeah, it's preparing the body and the mind to overcome those levels of fear, so you do respond correctly, is essentially what I want to say. Because I have to manage fear. And what's great is I just went back to school, and one of the huge sections is how to manage other people's fear as their leader, especially knowing when they're ready for something, right? And knowing that they're ready to progress and maybe they've plateaued or something. Fear comes in, and it's really training their nervous system for what they've prepared for. And if you don't do that enough, even with the ability, they won't do it. See, the negative. Okay, the worst case scenario is this, and this is how you would land, and this is what we would do. And then the great scenario is you're prepared. I already told you can do it. We're going to do it. So, yeah.
Point. Yeah. I think you've nailed it right on the head. I mean, the whole reason why I started doing negative visualization is Trinity actually created the idea of habits. And I started realizing, I was like, whoa, if I can create the idea that when things come in and it's just a habit for me to deal with things the same exact way using my virtues, it's like it's just the same thing as but why do I get up at 4:45 in the morning? It's a habit. It's It's just my body's so used to it now. So I feel like the thing is when I was struggling with things, I wasn't used to struggling. But now, since I'm used to struggling and I'm kind of preparing for the worst, my mindset is good, so I'm not anxious up here, but I'm able to create the habit of essentially just dealing with conflicts. And it feels amazing because, like I said, when I deal with, some hard times and stuff like that, people are like, Corey, how do you manage that so well? And I'm like, I just made it a habit. I started doing it, I put in the work, and now it's just it just happens. I don't even know how it happens sometimes. I just know what to do. Because I've been through it so many times, or, and I also tell myself, I'm like, what is this doing for me value-wise? If I'm sitting here hurting myself, or pouting or something like that, what am I trying to do? Am I trying to get the other person who made me upset to feel bad? Because they're probably just enjoying themselves and they're acting like nothing happened. So I need to do the same thing and just move on and make myself better from the situation rather than kind of, drown in my past. So,
yeah, I like that. Habits. Oh man, I'm such a creature of habits, and make sure that everything is regular. It's so important. But I also like what you said about the getting the no to get you to the yes. I can definitely relate with that. I was watching a sales training or something the other day, and what they were talking about is when the sale was made or the person got the commission or whatever it was, I can't remember exactly what it was, but the sales manager then reverse engineered how many times they got rejected or like the person didn't show up from the commission. And so they were able to be like, okay, so you made this $10,000. That means every no you get paid $300 or whatever it is. So that now you can know that every time you go knock on doors or you get on an appointment and they say no, you're like, oh, that was $300. That means I'm that much closer to my $10,000 mark or whatever it is. So that's really cool.
I love that perspective. Yeah, that perspective is really cool. It kind of takes what Corey was saying, like preparing for, because here's the thing, like if we know if we're going to grow in our business, personally, whatever, we have to get out of our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And to get out of our comfort zone, a lot of times will cause those anxious, nervous, like doubtful feelings. And so if you take the negative visualization and you kind of just prepare yourself, like, what is the worst that can happen here? And how is it going to benefit me even if it happens, right? Because everything happens for us as a lesson to learn, to grow. So even if you take the step out of your comfort zone, the worst does happen. You're prepared for it. And like Danielle is saying, your nervous system has already felt it and you're already good. Like,
yeah,
you're already. And then what you said, Graham, that takes that to the next level where you're like, you can look forward to rejection and to failure. And I like failure, throw that out there loosely. I love that mindset because that gives you motivation, even more motivation, that next level of motivation to step the heck out of your comfort zone and take that next divine step towards what you want and desire.
Exactly.
Survive.
Yeah, because if you know that it, like, you made $10,000, just throwing numbers out there, that it took 20 no's before you got that 10,000, that means you just count the next time, like, okay, each one is like $300 or whatever it is, up until, okay, I've hit my 19th no. It's gonna be around this time that I hit that yes, and I'm gonna hit that goal. You know what I mean? So, but then it also comes down to like I mean, just in sales perspective and like business owner's perspective of like tracking that stuff, because like that's where it gets tough. Because like if you're not like being mindful of it, you can definitely forget. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got that no again. And now it's like, oh, I got that no again. As opposed to like, if you track it and actually are like diligent about tracking what you're doing in some way, then it helps you stay on board versus like, if you have just the thought of like, oh, I know it's going to be a no that's leading me to the yeses, it's very easy to just end up getting stuck in like, oh, it's another no again. Oh, it's another no again. You know what I mean? But yeah, I totally relate with all that.
That's it. In general. For sure. I like that dollar amount thing though. That's nice. I do art walks and I have students that now have spent a whole year with me because I met them at an art walk. So I love being at a place in my business where I can calculate these things and really, like another gig, Riverfest, I did free last year. Now I've been invited and to be paid to be at the same event. So this year. So like I love being in that place of business where I'm not at the level of, the end goal quite yet, or this goal, but that I can calculate the success and that the ladder up is happening. It feels great to be in that level of business now. It takes a few years, because you're kind of just doing it. And then now you can reference your work and kind of calculate those numbers and have a positive turn on or free failure, mistakes, reroutes, whatever it is. Innings. I am like in the center of when all these beautiful things are just floating around me, and I'm now just kind of like putting them in their place in life, and I love it.
Building that gravitational field, you as the center, putting all the planets.
Yeah, I feel it. I do in so many ways. But it felt messy at first.
Yeah.
It's definitely important. I think, I think that's the hardest thing about like mindset and trying to study Stoicism is there's not really any sort of like quantitative measurement with it, but you can make it quantitative. There's something called soul force, and which is just crazy because it gives you like an equation for how much you're increasing your motivation, your mindset, and and it actually gives you a number. Like it's a scientific equation, which is kind of cool because it's like when you're studying Stoicism, a lot of it is very qualitative, more quantitative. So it's qualitative measurement over quantitative measurement. And in school, we kind of learn that quantitative measurement is the most important thing because people like seeing the bigger numbers. Qualitative measurement is just going to give you like, oh, you develop this virtue, and how I kind of measure that and train that is recently. So I want to start doing journaling, kind of reflection, stuff like that. Trinity actually wants me to start doing journaling, but it's tough starting something new. But I'm definitely going to get into it because I think it's important, not only to show yourself that you can do something, but reflect on something and why it works is super, super important, because if you just do it, it's almost like you're creating it. Like, yes, you can do it, but you never understand why it actually works. And journaling allows you to reflect on that. So I think that's why it's so important for me to have that, whether or not it's journaling, reading, some sort of reflection process on, that's kind of my next step to really kind of take myself into, the next journey into Stoicism and kind of developing myself as a person. So
there's all
next virtues.
Yeah. There's always next levels for us. And I love the topic of journaling because journaling is different for everyone. Like, we all do it a different way. And as long as you're not sitting there like just word vomiting all over the paper and negative crap, like that's the only wrong way. But I would still even fight for, like, if that's where you need to start, do it. Right. But I know you won't do it. But if you were listening, you're like, I don't know how to journal, and that's the first thing you're going to do. Like, I had a client start with that, which is why I publish a journal, because I was like, man, you just took that training that total different direction than what I had. Oh, let me just create a journal that has a structure. It's a little confusing.
I love that. Why you made the journal. So I didn't know that. That's funny. So problem solving really is the root of what.
No, it literally was.
From.
Yeah. I did this free training with my grace, gratitude, celebration. It's my 3 pillars that brought me out of depression and have brought a lot of people out of depression, anxiety, started their mindset journey, what have you. And so in this training, one of the topics I teach is the importance of journaling. And I am like, okay, so write grace, gratitude, celebration on a piece of paper, go get a $1 notebook from, dollar store or whatever. And one of these training clients sent me her picture, and I was like, oh, okay, I need to create a gratitude journal. Because I no wonder you're not feeling good, because this is not what I taught you. But it's incredible because when you do it right, when I say do it right, when you journal right in a way that you can reflect and be like, okay, was I my best self today? Why am I feeling this way about this situation? When you declutter your mind, it allows for growth and clarity in the areas where you are seeking growth and clarity. So if you are sitting there saying, what do I do in this situation? What do I do in this situation? And you're just like perseverating on it, and it's days. Ask yourself, have I decluttered my mind? Have I journaled? Have I got everything that's in here out in order to open it for that clarity? Like, oftentimes we are so cluttered up here that we can't even get to our next levels because there's no room. We're maxed out. Are all of those tabs open in your brain? It's like your computer. You can only open so many tabs before the thing shuts down. Journaling is like closing your tabs in an appropriate way before you completely shut down and have a mental breakdown, right? So journaling, I think, should be a daily practice every morning, every night, because how we have the choice to start our day with no tabs open. we have the choice to end our day with no tabs open. And when you don't do that, you start your day with the 7 tabs that were open yesterday and the 6 that were open the day before and the 7 that were open the day before that. And so you're ending Friday with like 43 tabs open. No wonder you're freaking stressed out. Yeah. Journaling.
Stress also lingers in the body. So if you've gone through specific traumas and you don't like exercise or stretch particular areas of the body, like not saying like no matter how much mental strength you have, you will plateau at some point if you're not matching the mental stamina with the physical in some way. And or an artistic kind of thing, but definitely physical. There has to be some element, and I think a lot of people skip it or think it's just the gym. It's not. Your trauma builds up in a form of energy within your avatar, and you have to free it. And that is so huge. Like, do you know that there's studies where people can diagnose certain illnesses based off of their trauma experience? Like if you experience neglect or like really deep things like that, you're likely to have breast cancer, heart attack, something of this area. Yep. And I identify with that one because it was kind of like where I had to start to understand myself, but there was many forms of it. Men carry their stress in their shoulder. Women carry them in their hips. Yeah, it's a really, let me find some point of reference for that to go deeper for everyone. It's been a while. I just kind of instinctively know this, and I can vibe. I see people when they're working out in front of me. So I've never had to like reference it in a specific, but I would love to do that for people so you can find your kind of niche and where in your body you need to release.
That'd be a really great future podcast episode.
Yeah. I'll find it. They have like chakra things. That's pretty more well known in terms of those energy points. But from an athletic standpoint, there are actual points of reference with trauma and exercise and where to focus on.
That's cool.
Like you guys should stretch your shoulders every day as men.
Yeah. Yep.
Swear to God. Every day. Pay attention to it. Women, that's why we dance. That's why we move. We have to. That's like where we carry the weight of the world.
So one of the weirdest things was, so I do mixed martial arts too. And I normally, so when I did boxing, I don't know if it's just because I'm not like comfortable in this spot, but like my shoulders were super tight. Now that I do Muay Thai and I like focus on my mind and stuff like that, my shoulders literally are like babies' shoulders. Like, the crazy thing is I don't understand why it is. Like, because sometimes I have like really, really tight shoulders and I'm like, wow, I'm really feeling this today. But after I get done training, we always think that like when you're going like this, people think that you want to be tight. You actually want to be super, super loose and calm. Like, it's almost like you've been there kind of before, because like when you're, I take it for like a networking event. Like when I'm uncomfortable in certain situations, I'll sit like this and I'll be very like unapproachable. My shoulders will kind of like buff out a little bit because I'm kind of putting up the defense and I'm very uncomfortable. But when I'm like in a space where I'm like super, super comfortable, where I know a lot of people, I'm like very happy-go-lucky. I look like crazy. I'm always walking around like I'm smiling. I'm very like outgoing. And I feel like it was just weird to me, like how something where you're moving your shoulders, even if you're calm up here and you stretch and stuff like that, you're still not going to get tight. And it was just weird. Like they're like, oh, Corey, you're not that tight. Like your shoulders feel like baby shoulders. And I was like, what? Like I just got done training. And they're like, I'm like, so it's just weird. Like sometimes I have those tight shoulders. Other times it's like all that stress kind of gets relieved. And I think it has something to do with energy transfer, which is something that's a really interesting thing for me. And I actually do a ton of research on that myself just to try to figure out, because I understand that like, physicality eventually will go away from me. My mind, I don't know how long I'll be able to keep my mind for, but the thing is, while I still have it, I'm going to make sure that my soul understands that these are the virtues and this is who I am. And hopefully I can take that with me until the day I pass away or leave this earth. That's the hope. But I feel like that has a lot to do with energy, negative energy, positive energy. And I really try to understand that there is negative energy everywhere, but it doesn't necessarily have to come into my life. I can wave to it from a distance.
Exactly. And that's such a key point. And that's our goal here with the podcast is we're hoping that this podcast can help provide some of that positive energy to our listeners. We've covered a lot of cool topics today as far as making sure that you go journal, some stoicism, and that hopefully providing some of that positive energy to our listeners. So thank you for joining us today. My name is Graham. I own Valued Productions. We provide video marketing strategies to businesses. You can find me on social media at Valued Productions, VALUD Productions, and same thing, website, valuedproductions.com. And I'm joined with my awesome co-host this morning.
Hello, Trinity Baker. You can find me on all social media platforms, The Trinity Baker. Also, my website, thetrinitybaker.com. I got some really great free resources, and you can snag yourself a gratitude journal that I referred to in this podcast episode on my website. And I am joined here with my co-host.
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. You can find me again on media, website, arialjade.com, where you can live chat with me. You can find me all summer long with my rig, giving opportunities for people to try aerial arts, either paid events or paid by the community. Anyways, it's pretty much free for you. So find me on media so you can find a time to come try aerial arts. And we are here with our guest.
Hey guys, my name is Corey. You can find me on Facebook at Corey Harvey, Missouri and Associates. I will have an Instagram and LinkedIn here pretty soon, but currently, right now, I do not have that as I'm trying to just kind of focus on conquering one social media at a time with Facebook. But guys, thanks for having me. This was awesome. And, I look forward to watching it later. So.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us all. We'll see you next week. Make sure you follow, subscribe, all that good stuff for the Unfiltered Path podcast. And we will see you all next week.